Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. Tonight we are recapping the week's nerdy news from New York Comic Con to Boo Necronomicon and everywhere in between. I tried to rhyme. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always is Steve Holler. What's up, Steve? It's a little rhyme for spooky season for you.
Yeah.
Get it? New York Comic Con and Boo Necronomicon.
Yeah, we'll give it to you.
It's
a little
flawless.
rough,
It's
but
really
we'll give it to you.
flawless.
When
you say rough, I think you mean
wonderful,
total perfection.
Yes.
Total perfection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's you know that like sometimes you see artists that have that art style that's a little rough around the edges and like
Yeah.
but it still works.
Yeah.
I think you're there.
Yeah.
I think you're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's reminiscent of when we used to do spin-off for show covering TV shows, and we used to try to have names that
clever
rhymed.
names. Yeah. The speaking of that,
I don't remember any of them.
I think we will at the end of this episode have a little discussion about Agatha All Along because I think both of us are caught up finally. So there's been a couple weeks where I've been like, come on, Mike, pull it together. We got to get there.
Yeah, I know.
And it was worth it.
Really dragging, but I found some time today. Yeah. I'm realizing that I'm entering a period of fatherhood where I'm starting to have some time on the weekends to do nothing. And like he's out playing with friends. My wife's got something else. I'm like, I guess I could watch something. What? I haven't been able to do this in 8 years.
There you go.
But yeah, it's so I caught up on Agatha today. It was very nice. So
nice.
Yes, I would love to talk about it at the end of this episode. So stick around for that.
Yeah. Your day was much better than mine. I tiled the kitchen. So
fun.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. Give me Agatha all day compared to that.
Right. Give you Agatha all along.
Yes, indeed. So
we got like as previously mentioned, we have a lot of news coming out of New York Comic Con this week, film and television and comic books alike. A lot of announcements.
Hold on, comic books.
Yeah.
You know, I know somebody who wrote one.
You do? You've met someone that's written
I have. I might be talking to someone right now that has a Kickstarter live for a comic book.
Might be. Steve, I really appreciate you setting me up these last 2 weeks to talk about my Kickstarter so I don't have to clumsily and self-congratulatorily do it myself.
It's what I'm here for, man. It's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yes. Funny that you mentioned that, Steve. I have written a comic or two in my life, and one of them is on Kickstarter right now. It's called Crown of Bones. It's about a group of sexy monster queens teaming up to defeat an ancient evil. We are just under $4,000 out of our $6,000 goal. We have about 17 days left to go. The campaign ends on November 7th, I do believe. And there are still plenty of awesome rewards for you to pledge to. Not only do you get digital copies of the book and physical copies of the book, there's 4 different covers for this book, 2 safe for work ones, 2 not safe for work covers. And I've mentioned the variant covers before, and I just, right before we started going live, I realized I should specify that the variant cover that we have, both the safe for work and the not safe for work variant cover, are done by Holly Golightly, who is a pretty well-known comic book artist. She's worked on Archie comics for a bunch. She's done a lot of like adult kind of themed books, and our brains behind this operation, Eerie Rodica, and executive producer of this comic book, reached out to her, and she immediately agreed to do it, and has been giving our team advice going along this entire process. She's been nothing but wonderful, and Eerie is actually going to be recording an interview with her. I think tomorrow. She's going to be conducting an interview with Holly Golightly, and that'll be up somewhere. I guess maybe just on socials. Maybe we could reach out and see if we could post it in our feed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, look out for that. And yeah, so Holly Golightly has done the variant covers for Crown of Bones. Series artist Riley McFarlane has done the main cover, and as well as is going to be doing a not safe for work variant cover as well. And you throw around the terms not safe for work, maybe, hits people in, maybe a negative way or whatever. It's not a smutty book. This is a sexy book. It's not smutty. It does have a bunch of hot ladies, and it does have some raunchy humor and some sex jokes, but you're an adult. It's fun. It's fun, and it's a lot of action and gore and jokes, and it's a blast. Do you like Army of Darkness? I kind of tried to model it after a mix of Army of Darkness meets the Harley Quinn cartoon show on Max. That was my guiding light, were those two things. So if those two things sound good to you, you can check out Crown of Bones Kickstarter. It's on Kickstarter right now. 17 days to go. Please.
So that actually works. For the record, I have officially pledged now.
Thanks, buddy.
The second part was you just had that pitch. That's what. So I was down at the shop at Funky Town Comics and Vinyl. Go down there for all your local Syracuse comics and vinyl needs because they sponsor our show and they're also awesome people. So go check them out. Was down talking to Jesse down there as well as a couple of the regulars, and I was like, for one, we need Mike to get his books down here. And Jesse was like, I don't know why we haven't done that. But he's like, just tell him to bring some down. So bring some down.
Thank you.
But also was pitching Crown of Bones to a couple of the regulars. And they were all like, huh, that sounds right in my wheelhouse.
Oh, awesome.
And then I showed him the audio. I showed him the audio. Showed him the, the panels that you have in the Kickstarter. And they're like, yeah, that's great. So
yeah, awesome.
Hindsight.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool sample artwork on the Kickstarter you can check out as well from Riley McFarlane. And I mean, I say this in the referencing the tone as I just did. I say this in the video that's on the Kickstarter page. But early on when we were talking about the tone of the book, and I knew that it was going to be like monsters and horror and gore, but also supposed to be like burlesque humor and stuff at the same time, I asked Erie, I said, I need your guidance here. Are we the Evil Dead or are we Army of Darkness? And she said Army of Darkness. So I was like, oh, okay, I got you.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a hard pivot, but also I get that works perfectly.
Yeah. Because with all these different elements, there's a lot of different ways you could go.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is supposed to be campy and fun and but also full of action and gore at the same time. So
or you could end up at the Boo Necronomicon.
That's true. Yeah, Boo Necronomicon. Yeah, that's what Ash says. His catchphrase.
There you go.
Boo Necronomicon. I just listened to I listened to a podcast today I've never listened to before. It's been around for a few years, but it's called The Best Films That Were Never Made or something like that. The Greatest Films Never Made. And they just go over like an abandoned script or a famous abandoned script for a project that never got off the ground. And I listened to an episode about what was supposed to be the sequel to Freddy versus Jason, which was going to be called Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. That was going to involve the Ash Williams character. Yeah, I remember hearing about it at the time. Like it was like rumored even after Freddy vs. Jason came out, and there was like a 17 to 20 page story treatment written up, and it just at the end of the day, Sam Raimi just didn't want to give up the reins on the character of Ash, even though at that point there was no plans for the Evil Dead remake or Ash versus Evil Dead or anything like that. But according to this treatment that they went over in pretty great detail, sounds like it would have been a pretty awesome movie. Like I kind of love Freddy versus Jason. Like it's not cinema, but it respects both franchises and then brings them together in a fun way. And this seemed like it would have done the same thing, but also included the Evil Dead mythology and stuff, and it would have been cool. So there's a random shout out for a new podcast, new to me podcast, Greatest Films Never Made. Check it out. I also started listening to the one on Jurassic Park 4, which seems utterly insane. And I understand why they didn't make that movie. No spoilers, but woo, crazy stuff. Steve, did you want to tell the people about a random podcast that you were listening to today while you were doing a kitchen floor, or should we dive into the rundown?
No, I was recording a podcast about an hour ago, though.
How'd that go?
Good. Great. If anybody cares about Syracuse football or basketball, check out Disloyal Idiots. Otherwise, back to comic books.
Yeah, dude, you set me up for plugs all the time. I never set you up for any of the stuff that you do. You host a whole other podcast without me.
It's true. About sports ball. Yeah, basically any and all Syracuse sports and Syracuse athletic takes, we hang out on the Disloyal Idiots podcast at 8 o'clock on Sundays. Check us out. Yeah,
Steve records 2 podcasts pretty much back to back every Sunday night. So Round of applause for Steve Heller.
There's a
If
lot
you're
of
listening to this right now, you
talking
better
on
be
Sunday
clapping your
nights.
hands.
A lot of
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, so if you are a rare breed of nerd like Steve who also likes sports, check it out.
There we go.
And now, without further ado, should we plunge into this rundown, Steve?
Absolutely. There's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it. It's really only covering two fandoms. We're hitting DC and we're hitting Marvel because that was it was a little bit of Star Wars that you threw into the comic book.
Well,
But
it's under the Marvel
Marvel
banner,
book.
so
yeah.
Things under banners we will talk about much more as this progresses.
Yes.
So New York Comic Con happened this weekend. If anybody was living under a rock and did not understand this, my father even
dude, so many people. Oh, your father knew that it was happening?
Yeah, when my 73-year-old father can text me and say, "Hey, is this New York Comic Con thing something that you and your buddy would go down to?"
Oh, wow.
Because we had gone to a couple other cons. He was like, "Is that something you guys would work at or whatever?" And I'm like, "If we make it to New York, then I'm not. We're good. We're doing good."
Like, would we?
Yes. Are we going?
Absolutely.
No, we're
if
not.
we were invited, yes, we would definitely be there.
Yeah.
I was just laughing because you said unless you were living under a rock. I feel like there's probably a lot of people that did not know that New York Comic Con was happening because as big as it is, it's not nearly as big as San Diego Comic Con, which I think permeates the culture in a way that New York doesn't quite.
True. But again, like in the Venn diagram of people listening to this podcast, I would assume most of them are going to understand the New York Comic Con's happening.
That's true. Yeah, you're speaking to our base.
Right.
Which is, most people that probably knew. And if you knew that, you might have known. Sorry.
I was going to say, if you didn't, now you do.
Now you do, exactly. You also may have known that DC was having a big presence at New York Comic Con, featuring first appearance at a con since he took a big job a couple years ago. First appearance of Mr. James Gunn showing up to talk about Creature Commandos. Specifically, with the entire voice cast of the series was there, as well as a producer. And they talked a lot about Creature Commandos. But as I predicted, of course, he's going to get questions about the overall DCU that he's working on, updates on Superman and whatnot. And we definitely got a lot of those. So we're going to go over some of them right now. He talked about the overall canon, the overall aesthetic, and the look of the DCU and his ideas for it. Because a big question since he took was once he said that some people were going to be moving on from the previous continuity, DCEU, that made a lot of fans question, okay, well, how is this going to work? How are some people moving on? How are some people not? How is Viola Davis still playing Amanda Waller? How is John Cena still playing Peacemaker? But we're getting a new Superman or we're going to get a new Batman. Like, how's it going to work? What's staying and what's not? And more or less that question came up. And as far as the overall canon, and he said the following, quote, "This is first and foremost about story. We don't want anybody to come to Creature Commandos going, oh, you have to watch the Suicide Squad to understand what happened in Creature Commandos. Oh, you have to watch Peacemaker. We want people to be able to come into this blind and then be totally excited about it. So there's nothing that isn't explained in the show itself. However, there are references to things that happened in the past, and those references then become canon in the DCU because we mention them." And he specifically mentions the death of Rick Flag in the Suicide Squad and references the fact that Rick Flag Sr. was playing a role in not only Creature Commandos, but also Superman. And there's a third. Oh, and Peacemaker Season 2. So he references that and also says that Peacemaker Season 2, he's found kind of, quote, a way in, unquote, to connect the DCEU and the DCU that, quote, won't be confusing. So he's got a plan. I know he's referenced before that Peacemaker Season 2 will kind of adjust or address, I should say, the continuity shift in some way. And he claims that it won't be confusing. Now, hopefully, he said he's saying that it won't be confusing, knowing that there's a lot of non-comic book readers that will be reading this. A lot of times, Steve, you and I talk about, what is not confusing to people who read comics or get into deep nerd continuity stuff might be very confusing to somebody who is not experienced with that kind of thing. So hopefully he's right. Hopefully he's going to pull it off. But I think that's interesting, and it is pretty it does make it pretty easy. Like, hey, if we talk about something happening in the past, then that's canon. If we don't, then it's not canon. It's kind of like how Lucasfilm is doing Star Wars. Like, if they reference something then from the EU, and it's like, oh, well, then I guess that actually happened or whatever. Like the cortosis or whatever. They bring that in, like, oh, yep, it's back. But until then, maybe it is, maybe it's not. We don't know. As far as an overall aesthetic to his DCU, I love this. He said, every single project out of DC Studios is going to be its own thing. It's a connected universe, but we're not imposing any overall aesthetic. I love that. Even when I've talked about it before, let it breathe, let it be its own thing. Let Swamp Thing feel different than Superman, because it should. The comics do. The movies should too. And that's referencing, Lanterns being a grounded and gritty yet sci-fi detective story, and Superman being full of hope and action, and Creature Commandos being an R-rated animated show.
Which we'll talk about the trailer later, but holy shit, is it an R-rated
animated
show?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And also, I had heard a while ago, I saw that it was revealed that Alan Tudyk would appear in Superman. Alan Tudyk voices the character of Dr. Phosphorus in Creature Commandos, and said that Alan Tudyk would have a role in Superman. This was weeks ago that I read this. I immediately assumed that, Dr. Phosphorus is going to be in Superman. Turns out, no. Alan Tudyk is playing a different character in Superman. And we don't know who it is. They're keeping it a mystery. And James Gunn, while referencing that he cast the characters, the voice actors, specifically to carry over into live action, looking and kind of gesturing at Alan Tudyk, said a couple of these people may appear in other media as other characters soon, referencing his role in Superman. And just the way that he was talking about it, the tone of his voice was like, is this like a big character? Like, why keep it a mystery unless it's not like a big deal? And
who would Tudyk be playing? Because he usually is, I don't want to say typecast, but Tudyk usually has a type of character he plays.
Yeah. He's also a very gifted voice actor.
Yes.
So it could be that he's doing a voice of somebody.
Right, like a K2 style situation.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it could be anybody because we don't know anything about Superman. We know who he's not.
He has know who he could be. Like DC wise, he's voiced Joker and Clayface in Harley Quinn.
That's true. Yep.
He and Green Arrow as well in video games.
Oh, has he been Green Arrow? I guess I didn't realize that. But yeah, K2SO. He's been in a ton of Disney movies. So he can do a lot of stuff. Obviously, Firefly.
Right. I was going to say he's getting all the nerd money.
Yeah, for sure, and deservedly so.
And
anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Actually, he wasn't in A Knight's Tale. That was a great movie.
Dude, I have never seen A Knight's Tale.
It was a good movie.
I hear, when it came out, I was like, that looks stupid. I'm not going to see it. But in the last 10 years, I've heard so many people rave about how good A Knight's Tale is.
Yeah, I mean, it was Ledger, Paul Bettany, Tudyk, Mark Addy that played Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones. Like,
okay, yeah.
It was a cast.
Yeah, and I feel like it was a cast of people that were all on the verge of blowing up.
Yeah, it was kind of like right before all of them took off. Like, because that was 2001. If Tudyk's 53 per Wikipedia right here, so 23 years ago, he's floating. Yeah, wow. He probably had some bit parts here and there, and that was kind of blowing up. That was right before Firefly, so
I was gonna say it must have been right before Firefly.
Yeah. Jesus, Firefly was when I was in college.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. We're back to the Mike and Steve are old track here.
Anyway, he also obviously was asked about Superman. And in regards to Superman, he says that he is deep in the process of editing. And he had this to say about David Cornsweet. He said, David Cornsweet is going to, quote, going to fucking blow people away. I don't think anyone really understands the depth of this guy's talent dramatically, comedically. He is the best physical action star I've probably ever worked with. And Rachel Brosnahan, people are going to die for her as Lois. I feel good about it, and I'm really hard on stuff, so it's been fantastic. And then the moderator of the panel said, is there a trailer? Do you have anything? And James Gunn immediately was like, whoa, no, you're making the audience think that we're going to surprise them. Guys, there's no trailer. We don't have a trailer. Don't get excited. It's not happening. And the guy said, he goes, I do have stuff on my phone, though. And the moderator was like, quick, grab him, get his phone. But he did say about a trailer, he said, it won't be long before we see a trailer, but it's also not going to be too soon. So incredibly vague about that. I can't imagine that they would, I mean, Creature Commandos is a television thing, so there's not going to be anything attached to that, but I'm not sure. I think it's probably just going to be its own thing. It'll be like,
in all honesty, do they go big and drop it as a Super Bowl? Like February would be about the right timeline.
That would be huge. That's a pretty good theory, I think, Steve.
Yeah. I mean, if you're releasing in July, that's 5 months prior, like that's right on.
That's big.
Like there's no need to put a teaser out for Superman.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of like
you don't need to build the hype for this one.
Yeah, like the hype's going to be there. Yeah, I can't think of another movie that would be like a big Warner Brothers release that's happening between that's like suitable, you know, or another superhero.
No, because Dune's a series. Like Dune Prophecy is going to be a series.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something else from Warner that would hit those buttons. I don't know.
And they're not going to bother putting it on like Kraven the Hunter, I feel like, or whatever. Or like the only superhero movie I can think of besides Kraven that's coming out before the Super Bowl is like the Dogman movie. Well, they could put on a Dogman movie, be like, hey kids, come see a real superhero.
Right.
Be cool.
I mean, what are they've got coming up?
You looking at Warner releases?
Yeah, list of Warner Brothers films. Upcoming Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim is not going to be it.
No.
A Minecraft movie probably ain't doing it. And
honestly,
no,
though, like,
there's really nothing there. Like Warner doesn't have a ton coming out until Superman.
But they're really just gonna drop it online. Like it's not. I think the days are gone where you like it's attached to a specific movie. Like trailers are just kind of everywhere now, you know. So I kind of think I think Super Bowl might be it. Or it's just gonna be a random like.
Right, just shows up.
Happy Tuesday. Here's the Superman teaser. You know. But I'm sure that I'm almost now that you say that. Whether or not we see a teaser before the Super Bowl, I guarantee you we'll see something at the Super Bowl. I guarantee you they'll do Super Bowl stuff.
Oh, we're going to have that and Fantastic Four just going at it at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's going to be great.
I can't wait to compare what those two movies look like.
I
can't wait.
I have no expectations whatsoever for what Superman's going to look like.
Neither do I.
Like, Fantastic Four is going to look somewhat Marvel-y.
Yep.
Which, I mean...
I really want them, for the sake of Fantastic Four, like, this is not me being like, give Superman some room, but like, I really want them to move Fantastic Four out of that month. Like,
yeah, but what else are they going to do?
I feel like you want to give like a big run-up, like put it somewhere where there isn't another huge superhero movie coming out 2 weeks before, you know, like give it like a big... Like,
oh, yeah, because it is second
Superman's
in that month.
Fail?
Yeah.
It's the same month. Like, I think they're really shooting themselves in the foot. Like, maybe Superman's bad, but I don't know. There's going to be so many people that are excited to see it that I don't know. I think they should move it.
I mean, what does Disney have upcoming in the next foreseeable future? It's
well, they got Captain America 4 in February, right?
Yeah.
That's like
Mufasa in December.
Big Marvel thing.
Brave New World in February. Live action Snow White. Don't think they're attaching to that. And then Thunderbolts.
When is Thunderbolts?
May.
And then Fantastic Four in July.
July 25th, yeah.
It's even pretty close to Thunderbolts, man. Like,
dude, swap that with like Freakier Friday is coming out August 8th. Like, swap Fantastic Four in that.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, but like, swap those things.
Yeah.
Tron Ares is coming out.
Because then it's counter programming. Because like, then people will want to go see Freakier Friday instead of Superman for a second time because it's a different thing or whatever, you know. But
Or I mean, dump it to November in that Blade slot. You know Blade ain't coming out, and you've already got a November 7th date.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Have it be like the biggest movie of the fall.
Right.
100%.
Well, but then in 26, they've got Avengers Doomsday and Mandalorian and Grogu both dropping in the same month.
What are you doing,
They're
Disney?
both in May. Like, that makes zero sense,
One
too.
of those is moving.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, one's supposed to be May 1st and the other is May 22nd.
They haven't started making Doomsday yet.
Right, it's still pre-production.
It's Marvel. Slow down. Give yourselves more time.
Yeah.
Give yourselves more time. You're making Fantastic Four in a year. Like, come on. Anyway.
Crazy.
Anyway, of the biggest announcement regarding Superman didn't come from New York Comic Con. It came out a few days before New York Comic Con, and that is long rumored, but now official, that the Superman film will feature the character of Crypto the Superdog.
Absolutely.
James Gunn posted an image on social media of Superman and Crypto sitting on the moon staring at Earth, which is referential to a page from All-Star Superman, Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. It's a great image. And this just made me incredibly happy. Like, this is just a sign that he's just really embracing the warmth and fun of the character of Superman. Now, I don't know how you feel about it, Steve, but there was a lot of backlash from maybe people that may have been fans of the previous version of Superman and the previous person that was in charge of making DCEU movies at that time, thinking that Superman's a badass and they're gonna have him with a stupid dog. It's dumb. It's like, well,
tell me you don't know Superman without telling me you don't know Superman.
Exactly, man. They're just telling on themselves every time they say something. That's like, you've never read a Superman comic.
Yeah.
And I've seen people like, oh, you read the comics suck. It's like, okay, you're saying that you only like the Zack Snyder version of Superman, which is a radically different interpretation of the character. Like, I'm trying to think of an analogy and I can't really think of it. Like, you're
yeah, I don't know. That's tough because it's a very niche
this isn't fully apt of an analogy, but it's like saying that you love Star Wars, but the only thing that you've seen is the holiday special.
Yeah, kind of.
It's not really that
it's
good.
Not, but
it's just something that's so different than what the normal thing is.
Right. Like,
that if you see that and you're like, this is Star Wars to me, I love it, it's the greatest thing ever, you would hate the other stuff, but you're also
even
not
Man of Steel,
plugged in.
Like, even Man of Steel wasn't this. Like, you're literally telling me you watched Batman versus Superman and Justice League, and that's the only thing.
Well, he's pretty mopey in Man of Steel. Also.
He's mopey, but he's not like to the extent that you would say.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
He got mopier. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway,
is that a word?
I'm psyched about Crypto being in this movie. Steve, do you have any opinion on the appearance of Crypto the Superdog?
I think it's great, and I think the fact that he confirmed that it's not going to just be a CGI'd in dog and there's no specified breed and it's just like
just like a mutt.
A random mutt. Like, sweet. Like,
and I like that too. He said that he didn't necessarily start writing the script knowing that Crypto was going to be in it. It's just something that kind of came to him naturally as it was going along. Changed up where he was going with the whole script, and he had just adopted a dog after his previous dog had passed away a few years previously. So he said it was very personal inclusion to include Crypto and have it kind of be based on his own dog, and that's just like having a filmmaker that has a true personal connection to the film that they're making. I feel like oftentimes only enhances that project because it's really in their hearts and they feel a connection to it and they care about it. So
yeah.
Just more evidence that this movie's going to be good, I think. He was also asked about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It says it starts shooting in January in England. Currently screen testing actors for other roles. He said, quote, "It's very much based on Tom King's comic. There are, of course, differences because it's a 3-act structure. But it has all those major characters and major themes. Supergirl is a mess. I can't wait for people to see it, and I think it's completely different I think it's a completely different take on a superhero.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for that as well. And again, I haven't read that whole book. It's getting up there on my list as I'm making some real progress lately on the books that I haven't read yet.
Bravo, that's better
Or the
than I'm
books
doing.
that have been sitting there for a while. Well, my son's got to do this thing where he reads for at least 10 minutes every night. So for his 3rd grade class. So that means that my wife and I also sit down and read with him for at least 10 minutes every night. So I'm like, all right, I'll chip away at this graphic novel that's been collecting dust on my shelf for a while, and boop, 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 bing, bang, boom. Getting them out of the way. So I'm reading Nightwing Year 1 right now.
Oh, nice.
That Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Did I tell you I finally physically picked up a copy of Mouse?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned that I think last time. It's right there on the shelf behind you with the red spine.
There you go. Oh, you can't see it on the broadcast. You can't see it, but yes, it is right there.
Oh,
it's
I can
literally,
see it.
Yeah, you can see it. The video's cut for the the peoples.
The peoples. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that entire story. But his comment on Supergirl being a mess, because I haven't read the entire book, I don't really know the depth of it. But she kind of starts off in a rough place.
Just from that first 3-issue arc, it's like, yeah, okay, I can see what he's going with.
It's her 21st birthday, I believe, but she has flown to a remote planet.
Basically, looks like Asgard, but has a red sun.
It has a red sun, so her powers don't work, so she can get drunk.
Yeah,
by herself, not in like a party way. She has gone to get drunk by herself, light years away from Earth.
Yeah.
So clearly something is, she's not feeling her best, I should say. So that's cool. And of course, Creature Commandos, he talked in depth about it, interviews with the cat. You can watch the entire panel on YouTube, by the way. I just kind of pulling quotes and pulling pieces from it, but he talks to David Harbour and Alan Tudyk and all the other cast voice members that are there, Frank Grillo. And they showed a trailer for Creature Commandos. Executive producer Dean Lorey was there and said it's got really, really dark tones. The palettes are really cool, but as you can see, it's very action-oriented. We took the relationships very seriously when there was a death or anything like that. We wanted people to feel it. This gave us an opportunity to more fully do that than we could do in a pure comedy. I think he was kind of comparing it to other adult animation that they have on Max, like the Harley Quinn show, which is... I would say it's also very action-oriented, but it's also first and foremost a comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems like Creature Commandos is first and foremost a action series and a action drama.
I know it's not the way he meant it, but we wanted the people to feel it for when there is a death. Every one of those goddamn deaths in the trailer, I felt, because oh my god, they were graphic.
Yeah,
holy
so
boy.
This trailer is pretty wild.
This trailer is straight up even though it's animated, this is a Red Band trailer.
This is a Red Band trailer,
or
for
would
sure.
be if it was not a animated trailer.
Yeah. And I read an article before I watched the trailer, and it said that Clayface will appear in the show, and I can't remember the name of it's one of DC's many super intelligent gorillas, but like the Golden Gorilla, I can't remember the character's name, would be in the show as well. I was like, oh, that's cool that they're bringing in certainly cool they're bringing in Clayface, and I was like, oh, there's a lesser known, it's classic James Gunn bringing in lesser known DC characters. And then in the trailer, the bride murders that gorilla,
like straight up with a lunch tray.
With a lunch tray in a cafeteria. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. It was a level of oh my god, what's going on?
Yeah, and there's so many. Oh, G.I. Robot?
Yeah.
Seems to be a very murder-happy robot. Just, there's a lot of faces blowing up and heads exploding and eyeballs shooting out of exploding heads in this trailer.
Yeah, it definitely... There was a lot going on. The one character is 100% Palm Clementif as Mantis analog.
Oh, yes. I missed that character. That's not a character that I'm familiar with, and I missed her trailer. But yes, more of a timid.
Yeah. Why can't everybody get along? And
yeah, but she's definitely I feel like she's definitely gonna have like a moment
Oh yeah.
where she turns. It talks about the basic setup is that after the fallout of the Suicide Squad movie, the government kind of cracked down on Task Force X, and Amanda Waller's not allowed to do that anymore, not allowed to use human beings, so she's using monsters and non-humans as basically a new type of Suicide Squad. Frankenstein, the Bride, Dr. Phosphorus, Weasel, all these characters that we have previously mentioned, and led by Rick Flag Sr., father of Rick Flag from the Suicide Squad movies. And yeah, it just seems wild. It's very, I would say we've said this before based on the teaser and stills we've seen, but the animation style is very similar to that of like Invincible on the Amazon Prime series, I think. And I would say, based on this trailer, might rival the levels of gore that we found in Invincible.
Yeah,
as well.
It's,
they're right up there.
Levels of unexpected large amounts of blood.
Oh yeah, big time.
So
big time. So
should we switch from that to straight up the opposite when it comes to levels of amounts of blood?
Yes, for sure. And we'll get back to some more DC comic book stuff in a little bit. But we're jumping over to Marvel, and this is not from New York Comic Con. I almost said San Diego Comic Con.
It's not from that either.
It's not from that either. It's just from an interview that Tom Holland gave this week. And Steve, you and I have been talking about a lot of the rumors coming out about Spider-Man 4 in the last couple of weeks, for good or for bad. Mostly, in my opinion, for bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been very hit or miss, mostly miss on things that have been floated as options and what they're doing and how they're doing it, and
and he certainly didn't. He was on a long form podcast interview. I did not listen to the whole thing, but I listened to a chunk of it. And he, of course, doesn't give any specifics about what the movie's going to be or who's going to be in it or characters, villains, anything like that. Right. Of course he doesn't. But I thought it was very interesting to hear him talk about his experience. So this is a pretty lengthy quote, but and you'll see when I'm reading it, like you can tell that he's trying to be as honest as possible without
burning bridges,
without burning any bridges or doing anybody dirty, throwing anybody on any buses. He's certainly being very amicable, but I feel like if you kind of dig a little deeper, you can kind of tell that there's some frustration there. Anyway, on with the quote. This was on the Rich Roll podcast I'd never heard of before. But he said the following, quote, Tom Holland. When I signed my contract for Spider-Man 1, meaning Spider-Man Homecoming, I signed a 6-picture deal. I was 18 years old. I was more excited than I had ever been about anything ever. And then for the last 10 years, I've been at the beck and call of Marvel and Sony. And proudly so. It's been the best experience of my life. I'm now at a juncture where I can say no. And now that I've been afforded that power, I am struggling to figure out what is the right thing to do. It's meant I've had to put my foot down in certain instances, which I haven't been able to do in the past. And I think the learning curve that I'm on right now is dealing with that new sense of power, making sure I don't abuse it, but making sure I do the best thing for me rather than the best thing for the studio. Really the best thing for the character. I don't want to make another movie just for the sake of making it. And then the host pops in and says, the studio, meaning the studio wants you to make another Spider-Man. And he says, yeah, they do. And I want to make another one. I want to make many more, but I want to do it for the right reasons. I don't want to make one for the sake of making it because that's not what Spider-Man represents. With Marvel, your movie is a small cog in a large machine, and that machine has got to keep running. You have to make sure you can fit into that timeline to benefit the bigger picture. That's one of the challenges we're facing. The time in which we need to get that done is a tall order, but it's definitely achievable. We have a creative team, and we have a pitch and a draft, which is excellent. It needs work, but the writers are doing a great job. And I read it 3 weeks ago, and it really lit a fire in me. Zendaya and I sat down and read it together, and at times we were bouncing around the living room. Like, this is a real movie worthy of the fans' respect, but there are a few things we need to figure out before we can really get that going, but I'm really, really excited about it. So, certainly speaking to not the smoothest of roads. And,
Yeah.
you may remember a few years ago, we thought that Marvel and Sony were not going to be able to make any more Spider-Man movies together. And
Oh,
Tom
yeah.
Holland was going to go back to Sony completely. And so, there's been a lot of it's not easy being Tom Holland in the middle of contract negotiations and re-ups and renegotiations with Marvel and Disney. Sorry, Sony and Disney. So I think he's kind of speaking to that a little bit, but he is seemingly coming into a point where he's played the character long enough that he can say no to some things. Like, no, I don't want to do that, or I think this is
Well, the biggest thing for that isn't that he's at a age; it's that initial deal ran up, so now he's
right.
playing with house money.
Yeah,
they
for
have
sure.
to get him back because he's their Spider-Man. They're not going to recast Spider-Man.
They shouldn't. I think they know that would be a huge headache, and fans would look at it as another reboot. And he's really popular, and the movies he's made have made billions of dollars for Sony. So I think you're right. I think that they see the danger in letting him go. And he's so kind of like into the character at this point. He knows how to do it. He knows what he certainly has an idea of what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing as that character. So
yeah, it seems like he's at least understanding the creative control of that character and what Peter Parker and or Spider-Man should be doing, or where in a story sense this should be moving.
Yeah.
The small cog in a large machine and it keeping running is 100% spot on. And I'm glad he articulated it. And it's funny to hear someone articulate it because it's been kind of the unspoken thing for a bit.
Yeah, that's what I thought was a way that was kind of telling of just about that's one of the challenges we're facing, the time in which we need to get that together. It's a tall order.
But the thing is, it's not right now. The way they left at the end of Doctor Strange, there's no need to be a small cog in a large machine. Just go street level. Do your thing, make your Spider-Man movie, and call it a day.
Well, yeah, man, that's what I want too. But that they know what they want to do after Spider-Man 4, so they need to set it up so he's going to be in whatever place he needs to be in before Spider-Man 4.
He
I
inherently
wish they
needs,
didn't care about that.
Yeah, I mean, how? Because Spider-Man 4, there's no chance in hell coming out before Doomsday and Secret Wars. How do you get Spider-Man into Secret Wars from where they're at currently?
I mean, Doomsday comes first though, so
yeah, but does he have can you do enough in Doomsday to set him up for the level of involvement and symbiotic nature of Secret Wars?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but I think this quote is the most polite way that he could possibly say, yeah, this is hard, and I wish we just could take our time more. But we're not allowed to take our time. We can't take our time because we're a part of this giant machine. I read frustration from that a little bit, but also, he certainly says, oh, I'm proud. And, it's the best experience of my life. So he's clearly, he knows
he's towing the
place.
company line because he knows where his bread's buttered. But...
Exactly. But he's also trying to be honest about it can be really frustrating when
I can only imagine
out of nowhere they say you need a script by next month because we're going to start shooting next year or whatever, so
right. And on a whim they can be like, hey, we're filming this for this other movie that you're not involved in, but you need to be there because you're in a tiny scene. Go.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting, but it also I don't know, Tom Holland is just a guy, and he's not going to say that. He's not going to say yo, I read a script and it sucked. He's not going to say that.
Well, 10 years ago he would have. He flipped up quite a bit.
Maybe.
At 28, there's no chance in hell. He's an industry veteran at this point.
Right. But I don't know. A small part of me is a little more hopeful knowing that Tom Holland himself is kind of we got to make sure we're doing right by this character, and we got to make sure we're doing the right thing for me as an actor, but also for Spider-Man as a character and how Spider-Man relates to the fans. So he could see that as being, oh yeah, no, we got to do a King in Black movie and team up with Tom Hardy's Venom. Like maybe that's his idea of respecting the character. It's not mine,
Yeah.
but at least if that is his vision or whatever, if his vision differs from what I or you think they should be doing with Spider-Man, then as long as his heart's in it, I guess is good. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean the latest rumor that's flying around is Black Cat heavy for Spider-Man 4,
Yep.
which would
That'd be great.
inherently that keeps it grounded.
Yep.
It adds a new dynamic to things. Yeah, I wouldn't be adverse to it.
Yeah. Like he says, this is a real movie worthy of the fans' respect. Like
Better than a fake movie, I guess.
Yeah, but like, are you saying that it's some kind of like more prestigious take on a character, like something like Dark Knight or Logan or something? Like,
Right.
Are you saying that they're trying to make it like that because MCU hasn't really done that? They make popcorn CGI filled blockbusters. They're not
Right.
known for prestige takes necessarily. I would love one. If you want to take Spider-Man and make like something that feels like a real movie.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
According to this, and I don't mean to shit on all the other Spider-Man movies or whatever, but like
no, but
a real movie versus CGI.
They know what they are though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like
right.
It's not a knock on it. It's what works and it's what people want to see. So make the movie. Yeah. But yeah, if they, I'd be all for a prestige. Give me, more the inner workings of Peter and his relationships with people and that sort of thing, instead of just like, oh shucks, got to go save the world again.
Yeah, I mean, those first two Sam Raimi movies, I think, do that really well. Like they really
they do
hit
with
on the character development
with that level of Raimi camp. Like
right.
it's it balances it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Spider-Man
I guess we'll see what
exist.
happens. What'd you say?
I said Spider-Man 3 doesn't exist.
Yeah. There are some good moments in Spider-Man 3. Like you can tell.
Like I said before, Spider-Man 3 is a great trilogy.
Yeah.
Shoved
it's
into
definitely
one
a great
movie.
2 movies.
Yeah,
like, I mean, everyone has said this a million times, but like you can tell that when it's the Sandman story or whatever, that Raimi is the one driving, and then you can tell that when it's the Venom stuff, his hand is off the wheel a little bit more. Even though as much as I love the first 2 Sam Raimi ones, I think he's the one that made that decision to make Sandman the actual one that shot Uncle Ben, and I'm like, I hate that. I hate that. You're changing the whole thing from the first movie. Like, what? No, I don't like that at all. Anyway, speaking of things I do like, and I'm very hopeful for, am I more hopeful for this than I am for Spider-Man 4? I think yes, 100%.
Maybe, yeah, I think I would be.
What we're talking about is Daredevil Born Again. I am more hopeful that Daredevil Born Again will be good, more than I think Spider-Man 4 will be good. For now. It might change. Anyway, we got a release date for Daredevil Born Again. Crowds at New York Comic-Con got a trailer for Daredevil Born Again. However, it has not been released online, so we have not seen it yet. And Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio themselves came out as a surprise for audiences at New York Comic-Con to announce the series will debut. I really appreciate that they did it just for me. They did it just for me. They knew it was my birthday, and they thought, you know what? Mike's been, banging the drum for Daredevil for a long time. So, let's honor him and have our series come out March 4th, 2025, Mike Gibson's birthday.
Didn't you have something come out on your birthday last year, too?
2 years ago, The Batman.
That's what it was. Yep.
It was a really good birthday. That was a great birthday.
Yeah, they're 2 for 2 on street level debuts on your birthday.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this is good. I want this to be.
I feel
I like it as much as I like the Batman. I don't know about that.
My brain says it can't be bad. It's just a level of how good. Like, is it mediocre or is it good? Like, I don't think it's with what they have between Cox and D'Onofrio and the cast returning and all that, and the amount of rewrites because of the fact that it looked like it was going off the rails.
That's true.
I think that it's at least going to be passable.
I was literally
Good? I
about
don't
to ask you. I was about to ask you what makes you think that it quote can't be bad is what you said, and then you said a couple things. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I,
Like, I think they
but
realized that it was heading towards bad, and we're like, let's put the brakes on this.
yes, I had forgotten about the massive upheaval.
Yeah.
And reshoots and recasts and rejiggering of the series.
Yeah.
So that does make me a little hopeful.
Plus, Echo was solid.
Exactly. So I honestly think that this all comes down to the writing, because we pretty much know what it's going to look like. It's going to look like a little bit darker version of probably every other Marvel show. We know who's going to be in it. We know that they're good actors. It's really just got to be the story. Not even the story, the script.
Yeah.
Honestly, like the dialogue has to be good, and that's the only thing that is up in the air right now. So I think you're probably right. I think it's going to be passable. I think it's going to be good, because I was thinking about it when I'm watching Agatha, and I've had ups and downs with Agatha.
Yeah.
But for the most part, because watching Agatha is making me remember things about WandaVision that I really liked. And then making me think about other earlier Marvel shows like Falcon Winter Soldier. And I'm like, there's only one of these that I really hated. That was Secret Invasion. All the other ones have been at least good.
Right.
To great. And I think it's easy for, there's plenty of these that people don't like. A lot of people like to shit on Miss Marvel and She-Hulk or whatever, but I liked both those shows. I loved She-Hulk.
Falcon and Winter Soldier didn't get a great reception,
but there were moments of Falcon Winter Soldier that I liked a lot. I liked the reveal of the suit at the end. I liked a lot of the interplay with Sam and Bucky. There was
the whole Isaiah Bradley arc. There was a lot of good in that.
Yeah, exactly. And that felt like a show that was I felt like a show that was moving these characters forward. These are characters that we know, and similar with WandaVision. These are new characters. They're not like Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel. There's here's some new characters.
Right.
And that's fine. But those initial two, WandaVision and Winter Soldier, was here's characters you already have an attachment to, and we are showing you their next evolution as characters.
Right.
And now more or less, I think, and Hawkeye did that also. It was more expanding Hawkeye's world as far as didn't really move him forward too much, but
no, but that struck the balance between, a new character in Kate Bishop and that whole dynamic. Right. And
right. But I feel most of the Marvel's shows have been, here's a new character and here's a thing, which is great. But I liked Falcon and Winter Soldier for taking those characters that I'm already attached to and showing, they're bridging the gap between Falcon and Captain America.
Yep.
So, that was something great. And I started this whole rant by talking about how pretty much all the Marvel shows have been at least good.
Yep.
So Daredevil Born Again, I has to say that it will at least be good. There's no way it's going to be as bad as Secret Invasion. There's just no way. You have to try real hard to make something that bad. And like you said, it maybe before the rewrites and the refixings, maybe it would have been Secret Invasion, but it's not anymore. So March 4th, 2025, celebrate my birthday by coming over and watching Daredevil Born Again. An open invitation to anybody listening to this. Just come over to my house on my birthday.
I mean, Matt Pistado was in the chat, so he may take you up on that offer.
Now he's gone?
I don't know. He may be. He may not be.
Let's talk some comics, Steve. Some comic news that came out of New York City Comic-Con.
There was a good bit, and I don't know how much we'll digress off of them, but there was a good number of things that were announced that were all good.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Yeah, I feel like I've done a lot of digressing already, so I'm going to try to keep the digressions to a minimum for the rest
but there's
of
some of these that are going to need some discussion. So, this
probably.
first piece.
2 huge DC announcements out of Comic-Con. I mean, there was more than just 2 comic things, but we're talking about these big 2. The return of Vertigo. Mm-hmm. Vertigo is coming back. Vertigo was a DC imprint. It was around for many years. And about 5 years ago, they announced that it was going away. They started pushing DC Black Label, to kind of take that space up. But DC announced that they are reviving the Vertigo imprint after only 5 years. Vertigo will once again be focused on adult-oriented prestige comics, which is what Black Label was doing. Black Label's not going anywhere. Black Label will continue as the home for these R-rated or more adult DC superhero stories. Batman, Wonder Woman, Catwoman, you know, you want to, maybe it's in continuity, maybe it's not, but it's like an adult take on or it's a darker story. That can be still Black Label. Vertigo is going to be focusing on new stories, creator-owned original stories, which I think is a smart move. I think that's very cool. The original Vertigo was home to such books as Sandman, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, Why the Last Man, and a plethora of other incredible stories came out of the original Vertigo. The first release under the new Vertigo will be re-release of James Tynion IV's Nice House by the Sea. That's the only title that is announced for now, but I'm sure more to come. I know like Tom King does creator-owned stuff for DC a lot, so I'm sure he'll probably have a book on. They'll want him to have a book on Vertigo to get those numbers up. So that's my bet. But
now, do you think this was almost strictly a response to the rise in indie and the quality of these creator-owned works that have been coming out in various other trademarks?
Yeah, I think it's a number of things. I think it's that. I also think that it is giving creators like Tom King or Tynion, giving them a reason to stay with DC.
Right. Because they're seeing a lot of folks flock away.
Right. Like, it was last year sometime or maybe 2 years ago that, because James Tynion abruptly left his Batman run.
Yeah.
When he was with DC to go through Substack. There was that whole Substack was like poaching comic artists and comic writers. And
that went the way of Buffalo, but
yeah. And you know, I think it's very telling that the first release from Vertigo is a Tynion book. I mean, he was still doing Nice House on the Lake, and it's not like he wasn't working with DC anymore. But this to me is like, hey, you should come back. Maybe you could take over an actual book. You could write for us again.
Right.
And now you have this other outlet for this creator-owned stuff that you want to do. We would love to work with you on that too. Here you go. Also, Scott Snyder, the same thing. Scott Snyder's coming back to write not Ultimate, Batman. What is the Absolute Batman? Yeah. And he's been cranking out creator-owned stuff, like so many titles in the last year. So, Scott
one
Snyder's,
of my current favorites out there right now is Jerry Duggan's Falling in Love on the Path to Hell.
Yeah,
like
from Image, right?
He's like, I could write all the shit that I've written for all these guys before, or I could just do my thing.
Yeah,
and it's working.
Why risk losing James Tynion again, or Scott Snyder, or whoever, Kelly Thompson, whoever is writing for you? Like, why risk losing them to Image or Boom or Substack when you could keep them and keep them happy because they get to do whatever project they want on Vertigo also. So I don't know. I'm very excited about this. I think this is a big deal, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of really cool opportunities for storytelling from these creators through DC. Now, speaking of regular continuity, this was a big deal, and this was slightly leaked that these two were coming back to the mainline Batman title.
I was going to say, hadn't we heard that a couple weeks ago of there was a strong possibility of this?
I think it was just earlier this week that I sent you a link.
Oh, might have been.
Oh my God. But Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb are returning to the monthly flagship Batman book for DC. And they're returning with Hush 2. That's right, a sequel to the very popular story Hush, which is probably one of the most famous and most beloved Batman stories of all time. And they're starting with Batman number 158. Now, Hush was a huge deal for a lot of people. I don't want to really ruin anything. Hush's response, I mean, this is not a spoiler for anyone that reads modern continuity and knows that Jason Todd is alive. Hush was the story that first, I mean, didn't canonically bring him back because it was turned out to be a fake out, but like that was like the first
hey,
like
there's a
idea,
chance.
like, hey, this
Yeah.
might be happening. And it's what got me back into reading comics. I was working at a retail job that I had a long time ago, and someone else there that was reading comics came in and looked at me and said, Jason Todd's alive. And I was like, wait, what? He was like, yeah, yep, new Batman issue. You got to get it. Jason Todd's, he's back to life. I was like, are you kidding me? What? And so I got that issue, and then I just collected the rest of Hush, and then I just have never looked back, and I just keep
Here we
reading
are.
comics. Here we are. It's a really incredible mystery series. It involves a lot of different characters from Batman's life, and it's great. Now, this is seemingly a project that has been being worked on for a long time because there was reported that issues are already done, and I think this is to avoid big delays. Like when you have an artist like Jim Lee, who is also like the president of the publishing side of DC or whatever, he's a busy guy, and it's easy for delays to happen. He was with Frank Miller on All-Star Batman and Robin, which is famously unpopular and hated take. Came out at the same time as All-Star Superman. All-Star Superman, everybody loves. All-Star Batman and Robin, everybody hates. And they didn't even finish it. It was supposed to be a 12-issue arc, and they got through like 6 or 7, and then they just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed, and then all of a sudden, no one ever talks about it anymore. But this one seemingly is going to work out because they've been working on it for a long time, and some issues are already completed. So very smart of them. And my guess is that this means that Chip Zdarsky is going to be ending his Batman run in Batman 157. Right? I mean, there's no announcement of that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonder how happy he is about that. I don't know. Because I haven't been reading his Batman book because I didn't love it. Did you want to... Oh, we can... the digital stuff real quick, and then you can do some Marvel stuff.
Sure.
Marvel and DC also announced new digital series for the respective comic book apps, Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe Infinite. Marvel's doing a new Astonishing line. They're doing Astonishing Spider-Man, which I believe you can read the first couple issues of right now for free. Yep. Astonishing X-Men and Astonishing Avengers. And those are debuting now through, I think, Astonishing Avengers comes out in January 2025. And DC Universe Infinite is announcing a line called DC Go. Maybe as a reference to Teen Titans Go, but not necessarily in the same style or anything, except this first one, Nothing But Nightwing, but spelled B-U-T-T. Somehow a comic book about Dick Grayson's ass looking fine as hell.
I mean, it's been a running joke for a long time, so
quite a long time. Now they're embracing it. That's I'll be very interested to see what that's like. Harley Quinn in Paradise and Renaissance of Raven, and these are coming out again now. I think the Nightwing book is already up there, and it's similar to Spider-Man. You can read the first couple issues maybe for free, and then Harley and Raven will debut now through the end of the year, I think. And Nothing But Nightwing. Be very interested to see what we're looking at there.
Oh yeah.
Steve, you got some Marvel stuff. Let's hear about some Marvel announcements.
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, there was a bunch of things that came out of New York Comic Con. Some of the highlights, or in different lights, depending on how you're looking at it. One of the big things is a mini that is titled Eddie Brock Carnage. Apparently, Eddie Brock is taking on the Carnage symbiote, I guess, to keep it under control, effectively. So it's, a different take on what's going on there. But apparently, Brock is bound with Carnage.
Has he ever been Carnage before?
I don't believe so, to my knowledge.
Seems crazy. That seems crazy that they've never thought of doing this.
Yeah.
Or never been able to or whatever.
Similarly, they're also launching all new Venom, which is apparently not Dylan Brock. It will be, I can't remember. I think the hard rumors were either Robbie Robertson or Luke Cage.
Interesting.
So I mean, all of that, all of this, I'm sure, is on a 6-month frame, and everything will get reset and the whole nine. But definitely some different takes on some things coming out there.
Yeah, wow.
They did in the Marvel camp or in the Star Wars camp announce that they're putting out a Star Wars Jedi Knights series, which is going to be kind of a prequel to the prequels. It'll be set
So like the
pre-episode
Acolyte,
1. No,
everyone will hate it.
yeah, well, also probably that, but
I mean, no one will hate it. No one will hate it because no one that hates things like the Acolyte ever reads Star Wars comic books.
right. God forbid they had read all of the High Republic stuff
High
that set
Republic.
up the
Yeah,
Acolyte and
exactly.
whatever.
Anyway,
Um,
let's not get sucked down into Star Wars. We'll be here all night.
seriously, Star Wars Jedi Knights will be set just prior to Phantom Menace. I don't know how just, but comparatively to the Acolyte, prior to the Phantom Menace, looking at the Jedi Order prior to the Return of the Sith.
Cool.
Something that I'm very, very excited about. Daredevil Cold Day in Hell. Charles Soule is back on Daredevil.
Woo!
So it's Charles Soule and I believe, who was it? Was it McKinnon? Steve McNiven, who did Old Man Logan. He was the art on Old Man Logan and Death of Wolverine and a bunch of others. So he's worked with Soule before. But yeah, they're taking a new take at Daredevil and where it's going to go. So everything looks to be, there's some it's kind of an Old Man Logan take on it. Years in the future, a powerless Matt Murdock is no longer Daredevil, but he's still the man without fear. So
that's cool.
Yeah. It's going to be good. And Soule, he's done a bunch of things lately. He's been playing in the Star Wars sandbox a ton. So, yeah. In the aforementioned, he wrote the lead-off novel for the aforementioned High Republic. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be good to see. His 2015 run on Daredevil was solid as well. And then finally, it's finally because I had to put it finally. They, in the Ultimates line, Marvel is bringing in Ultimate Wolverine.
Hell yeah.
Which, the quote, the tagline, true to the character's origin as a government weapon, Ultimate Wolverine is an unwilling agent of the Maker. Mind wiped and used as an assassin, he's still the best there is at what he does. However, he's completely helpless to decide who he does it to.
There's like Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So Logan as the Winter Soldier is one of the most frightening things I can possibly think of.
Jesus, yeah.
So I'm very curious. They show like the cover of the #1 is a red and black suit with the standard wings, but like a face covering over his mouth.
Cool.
Kind of like a Winter Soldier type look to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Another one of the alternate covers is him and Omega Red fighting Colossus. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll be very interested to see where this goes or what it does. Like different takes on Logan that are a completely different direction is always fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that'll be cool. Nice. Do you have a comic to review this week? I do not.
I do. I stopped down and Jesse gave me Hyde Street from Image. It is
cool.
Jeff Johns and Ivan Rice imprint.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty interesting. The art on it is weirdly crisp and dark.
Yeah.
But very very vibrant when it needs to be. So effectively Hyde Street, and fittingly enough, one of the main characters is a former child scout.
Perfect.
But the whole premise is this Hyde Street is a area that they're locked in like a purgatory, where the main characters have to bring unwitting people in to die.
Oh, great.
And the only way to get out is to win the death count. It's it's written a lot
Dark?
better than my description of it. It's very dark.
Okay. Yeah.
It's it's a tough descriptor, but each of the main characters has their own little quirks, and they're competing against each other. The main character, Mr. X-Ray, is he was
Cool.
a salesman in the 60s. That have stumbled into this mess and is trying to find his way out, kind of unwitting and unwilling to just as uncaringly kill as a lot of the other folks are. So part of it, you're struggling. He's showing the struggle between I don't want to be a completely cold-blooded murderer, but also I need to get the hell out of here.
Right.
So,
right.
it's very well written. It's part of the Ghost Machine kind of universe thing that Image has got going on. Overall, I definitely recommend at least picking it up and taking a look at it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe I will. This week in your local comic book store, you may find Action Comics number 1073, Alien Romulus number 1, Avengers number 19, Batman The Last Halloween number 2, Conan the Barbarian number 16, Dazzler number 2, Feral number 7, Godzilla's Monster Piece Theater number 1, Headless Horseman Halloween Annual 2024, Incredible Hulk number 18, Iron Man 1, Kong the Great War number 6. It's a new Iron Man number 1. New launch. Weird. Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, you know what?
Number 6.
This may be the first relaunch out of the Invincible Iron Man.
Oh, okay. Sure. Makes sense. Paranoid Gardens number 4. Poison Ivy Swamp Thing. Feral Trees number 1. I had no idea that this was happening, but I love when Poison Ivy and Swamp Thing get together. So I'm in. Redcoat number 7. Scarlet Witch number 5. Fawn number 358. Spider Boy number 12. Spider Society number 3. Star Trek Defiant number 20. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 3. The Hunger and the Dusk book 2 number 3. Venom War Carnage number 3. Werewolf by Night Red Band number 3. Wonder Woman Uncovered number 1. X Factor number 3. X-Men number 6.
So I looked up Romulus for you. It is actually it's not a retelling of Romulus. It's supposedly an all new story revealing secrets of the film's legendary antagonists.
Cool. I might have to pick that up then.
Yeah. How did Xenomorphs find Rain, Andy, and the Scavenger Crew?
Oh, that's cool.
Like, okay. So maybe it is the story, but it's it's the definitive
bonus or something.
It says the definitive prequel to the blockbuster film.
Oh, cool. I might
featuring
pick that
up. Forward by director Fede Alvarez.
Oh, cool. I really enjoyed the Alien Black, White, and Blood, or Black, White, and Red books. I thought those were very good.
I feel like that's a very good medium to use for them.
Yeah. Yeah, little short stories. It's always the government's fault. Like, it's
100%.
just really good. Yeah. Yeah, awesome.
I was thinking I had a very light week until you got to the last 6 books you said.
Yeah, you got a lot of X books to pick up there, buddy.
Well, just X Factor and X. Oh no, I'm not pulling X Factor, so just the main line.
Yeah. Okay then.
Yeah, because I'm not pulling Dazzler.
Or Scarlet Witch.
No. Yeah, it's the mainline X, Ninja Turtles 3, and Hunger in the Dusk.
There you go.
So light week for me. Yay.
Well, speaking of the Scarlet Witch, should we talk Agatha and then wrap this thing up?
I think we should. So if you have not seen, this is your friendly neighborhood spoiler warning. After we tell you to go like, subscribe, and review all of our various things on your various platforms you're watching us on, maybe check us out on social media, the Multiverse Report all around. Check out Mike's Kickstarter. Check out my other podcast.
Please do, Crown of Bones.
Beyond that, if you have not seen or heard or care about Agatha, you probably don't want to tune in for the rest of this, because that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah. And we're talking about all 6 episodes so far. Spoiler heavy. So, goodbye. Spoilers start. Now, how many episodes are there? I think these
8.
Marvel shows have been 6. Okay, I was guessing 8 after this wasn't the end.
7 seems awkward. So
yeah, but if that's the story, that's the story. But
right, but they don't seem to be one to actually do that.
They do not. Yeah. So
Uh,
my guess
7,
is
8,
8.
9.
Ooh, 9. Okay. Okay. See, that makes me more excited because I feel like where we are story-wise,
Yeah.
it would be a very rushed ending if it was 1 or 2 more episodes. You know,
Mhm.
I like that we're getting more. I mentioned earlier I've had an up and down relationship with the show. I mentioned on a previous episode where we were talking about it, where I feel like the quippiness of the MCU was really hurting me in these last couple episodes. Like people in a perilous situation, but they're taking the time to make some quip instead of like focusing on what they're supposed to be doing. And this most recent episode, anyway, I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
I felt like the tone was even a little bit different. It was taking itself a little bit more seriously, and it wasn't like quip after quip after quip after quip. So I really liked this most recent episode. Really won me back in a big way. And it's usually the kind of episode in a TV series that I hate because a lot of times I'm bored.
Right. The
When it's
flashback
like,
exposition.
the flashback episode, yeah, we're gonna take this episode and dig into the backstory of this side character, and I'm usually like, oh, just keep going with the story. You're wasting time. But like,
Well, but with
this
this,
was
it almost makes sense because the whole, like, a good premise of the entire beginning of the show was who the hell Teen was.
yeah, right.
And now you're filling those gaps in. It's not like one of those where it's like we see something alluded to, or we see this, this, and this, and then we go back to it. Like, this is like, it's kind of been building up to it.
The reveal at the end of episode 5 makes this episode necessary.
Yeah.
And it's not like other shows I've seen where it's seemingly out of nowhere. Okay, we're going to tell you how this person came to be with this group. And it's like, well, I don't really need to know any of that. Or at the time, maybe the episode after that references something that I learned in this flashback episode. But like the way Agatha did it kind of built up to, here's a big reveal. Now we need to fill you in. Then we're going to move forward. And like that makes it more exciting to me than just like, why are you telling me this in the middle of the story? Okay, 2 episodes later, I understand.
Oh, you mean kind of like The Acolyte did?
I
felt like
you and I disagree on that. I really like those flashbacks, and I totally understand where they were.
I love the flashbacks. I thought it was jarring how they placed them.
Yeah, I see why. I know why they placed them there.
Yeah,
I also understand why
it
was
but
awkwardly. But yeah.
Either way, I still like The Acolyte.
Either way.
And also, I'm glad I called it on the Billy.
You did call it. Yes, you did call it. Which I thought the second that I saw that reveal at the end of episode 5. And I really liked how they did it.
Yeah.
Because it's magic, it's witchy, it's who knows. Like, yeah, she said goodbye to her boys, but like she created them. Like, who knows? She didn't subconsciously send them to another vessel, or maybe he did it himself, or they, who knows?
Right, like she created these consciousnesses,
right?
Whatever.
She's in control of them,
right?
So she could do that. Quick tangent to talking about how Billy came to be Billy and not William anymore. So far, one of the things I like most about this show, people die.
Yeah.
People are dying in this show.
Left and right.
Yeah, left and right. I know. And I'm not sure that the 2
I think they'll come back later.
I feel like at least those 2 will come back.
Yeah. I think the rest of them are dead.
I kind of hope they are. I certainly think the human, the non-witch, I think she's dead.
She's
gonna
toast.
Stay dead. But then the one that died 2 episodes ago, I think she should stay dead too. I think they should all stay dead. And I don't necessarily have the faith in Marvel yet, especially now that I know there's 9 episodes. Like, figure out a way to bring it back. But I really like that people are dying because it shows stakes.
Yeah.
And Marvel is very famous for not letting anybody die. And even if they do let people die, sometimes I'll just cast them as a different character and bring them back so you can still see their face. Because it's a multiverse, we can do anything. Anyway, William had to die. William died in a car accident.
Yeah.
And then just was inhabited by the spirit of Billy Maximoff. Like, that's awesome. And that car crash was brutal. It was really well shot. It
was.
It looked dangerous. It looked great. It looked real. Like, I don't know. This episode was awesome. I loved everything about this episode.
Yeah, and that when they started with the bar mitzvah, it was like,
yes,
huh, okay, where are we going with this? What's going on?
Yep. And everyone, no one was making jokes. There was no, it was just like a serious like story for the whole, like there weren't any jokes really until they went to see Evan Peterson in the parking garage.
That was so great.
And then it started getting a little like, but those are funny, because it was so serious before that. It's like, okay, yeah, now we can have little quippies and jokes, and he's a silly character, so that makes sense. But I just really loved the tone of the whole, like you said, the bar mitzvah thing, through the car crash, through him readjusting to his family, and oh yeah, and bravo Disney Marvel, you have a scene in your new Marvel show about a mixed race gay couple making out in a car. Like, hell yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah,
good job doing that. Good job, for real. That's awesome. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling. I just really like this episode. I'm really hot on it.
No, it was. I thought it was well done. I thought all of the beats were close enough to, like, they were analog enough to what happened for origin stories in the comics, and they also gave Tommy or Billy a reason to find Tommy,
right?
As opposed to, in the comics, they just kind of are there and realize that they're brothers.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, like I think, what was it? They were like Speed and Wiccan were identical outside of hair color, but born to different families or something. Or
see, I don't remember. I don't know.
I don't know. It was
You're more the guy for that.
It's been a long time since I read the backstories on them or whatever. But like, I remember it was something similar to what happened in the show, and it's like, okay, cool. Like you kept it close enough that I wasn't like, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
And I don't see the internet yelling about that either. So
right. And it also, the internet that hates this show hates it for different reasons, I think. But
plenty others.
It gives that character a reason to be there.
Yeah.
Which before was just kind of like, is this guy just for comic relief? Like, why is he here? He's not, whatever. And then when you said you think that he was Billy, I was like, oh, maybe. And now it's like, yes, that scene, I loved Agatha pulling herself out of that goo, and that was awesome. She looked gross. I was really thinking, I'm like, wow, she really did that. That's like real goo.
Right.
That actor. Like, wow. It must have been a shitty day in filming. But then like that conversation that they have, the two of them, like she's super intimidating and she's like mocking him, but also a little, impressed, and also, it was just really good. I was like, oh yeah, it was like resetting their relationship in a way that I thought was really interesting and great. So yeah, I'm down. And I'm excited that it's 9 episodes now, that we get so much more.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to
I was really
see
thinking
it
was
goes.
going to wrap up by Halloween, but it'll be past being in November.
Oh yeah. Hey, what days does it actually come out on?
Wednesdays.
Okay. We just happen to watch it whenever we pull up Disney, and we're like, oh, okay, there's one left.
Another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only Murders in the Building is Tuesdays, and
I forgot that's back.
Agatha is Wednesdays. It's really funny.
Is it?
Yeah.
I got through season 1, and then I don't know if I did season 2.
Oh, really? Oh,
I think
they're all great.
Oh, it was great when I watched it, but it was one of those where I just never got back to it type thing.
Yeah.
And then I heard season 3 was coming out. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, every season is really good.
Oh yeah,
really fun. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, same.
All right. Well, if you're still listening, do the things that Steve said to the people that left. I wonder how many people actually leave.
I don't know.
A few. Probably a few have to not be caught up and want to.
Especially if it's like live. If they're watching live, I'm sure there's plenty that bouncing around.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Anyway, yeah, like and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that kind of stuff. Leave us a review, 5 stars with a recipe, and we'll make it, eat it, even though we haven't done the one recipe that somebody has done yet, because it's a complex one, and we're intimidated by it, and we're busy people.
And my kitchen was ripped apart until about 3 this afternoon. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Steve didn't even have a kitchen. Back off. Come on. We'll get there sometime. Go to Kickstarter and pledge to my comic book, Crown of Bones. Please, 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 please do that. And until next time, as the two suns set over the burnt corpses of Owen and Brew Lars, we say thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the multiverse.